So, opponents ready? Partner ready? Yes. Judge ready?
Yes, sir.
Audience ready?
Yes.
All right, then I shall begin. Contextual school-to-prison pipeline. Current policies have contributed to the school-to-prison pipeline. According to Professor Sarah's Redfield Jason Nance in 2016, the pipeline is one of our nation's most formidable challenges. Recent data from the U.S. Department of Education and Civil Rights elucidated their magnitude. During the 2011 through 2012 school year, schools referred approximately to 260,000 students to the law enforcement, and approximately 2,000 students were arrested. Many of these referrals were for minor offenses. The number of student suspensions and expulsions have also dramatically increased in recent years. 3.545 million students were suspended and approximately 130,000 were expelled. The majority of these suspensions and expulsions resulted from our trivial infractions. Perpetuating this pipeline has several consequences for our youth and their education. The Harvard Law Review points out in 2015 that when students are charged with juvenile, there are 4 fewer rights. This can have an escalating impact. The experience of juvenile parents in most states, and at least as unpleasant as the adult prison, there is most rampant violence and abuse. Time in juvenile prison can have a devastating impact on the course of the child's life. Juvenile incarceration makes a person significantly more likely to end up in the adult criminal justice system. In addition to students who spend time in the juvenile prison are significantly less likely to graduate from high school. This pipeline also has massive economic consequences. Marcel Dinda concluded in 2008 the lifetime income difference between graduates and dropouts is estimated to be $260,000. And finally, probable cause can help shift the balance and protect students in the legal system against overzealous school officials. Sarah Forman of the University of Detroit argues a shift to probable cause would address the problem of the expanding mucus between school officials and law enforcement. Under a probable cause standard, students who are searched will have a weightier ground to support suppression notions. Probable cause would alter the current methodology of school discipline where within every student is viewed as a potential safety threat. Contention to students' rights. The reasonable suspicion standard gives students 2 field rights, violating their privacy. James Bung of the Emory University explains in 2011 the governmental interest in searching cell phones, justifying a scan for less than the normal Fourth Amendment requirements. The interest now falls short of the heightened privacy students expect in their cell phones. Schools' interests do not justify the low standards established by the TLO court. The balance has changed, and the TLO standard is insufficient to protecting students' rights. This causes a snowball effect that will lead to other constitutional violations. Matthew Lynch argues this in 2006. Diluting the constitutional right of students may dilute the constitutional rights of all Americans. The impact of such dilutions of students' Fourth Amendment rights provides a domino effect of these violations reverberate throughout the Fourth Amendment law. This is a big deal. Privacy is necessary for individuals to be themselves. Bruce Schindler argues this in 2006. Privacy is an inherent human right and a requirement for maintaining and a requirement for maintaining the human condition with dignity and respect. Privacy protects us from abuses by those in power. If we're doing nothing wrong, we are not deliberately hiding anything when we seek out private places for the reflection on or conversation. Privacy is a basic human need to intersect the concept of liberty. If we are reserved in all matters, we are constantly under threat of correction, judgment, criticism, even plagiarism of our own uniqueness. We lose our individuality because everything we do is observant and recordable. Therefore, I urge you to vote for the person. Thank you.
Okay, is everybody ready? Okay. As Conti would negate the topic, resolved in the United States public K-12 schools, the probable cause standard ought to be applied to school searches. The probable cause standard should not be used in schools. Probable cause is when you need a warrant to search and find evidence. Probable cause takes longer to do because you have to get a warrant, so compared to reasonable suspicion. Probable cause gives more in-depth searches, while reasonable suspicion is a more quick but immediate search. Condition 1, cyberbullying. The current standard of reasonable suspicion is critical to prevent cyberbullying. It is necessary to figure out exactly who is involved in cyberbullying. According to Naomi Harlan Goodnow, the school's cyberbullying policy would include language corporation. The TLO standard, if there is suspicion of a cyberbully text message, then call logs and text logs will be within the scope of school searches to determine who may have sent and received the messages. Second, it helps enforce cyberbullying laws. Lau and Saris notes that student speech that interferes with operation of the school is limited. The Fourth Amendment would allow searches of students' belongings for reasonable suspicion that a crime has occurred. Currently, states have laws against bullying. Thus, administrators and teachers are within the rights to identify the acts of cyberbullying and punish the responsible students. Cyberbullying is a huge deal. It causes psychological problems, it can ruin your education, and even result in suicide. Ross Ellis points out that more than 40% of children are cyberbullied. And studies have definitely shown that kids who are bullied are especially vulnerable to depression, social isolation, and eating disorders, alcohol abuse, and self-injury. Bullying victims can suffer long-term physiological damage and even post-traumatic stress disorder, and some children are so tormented that they commit suicide. In addition, cyberbullying is a huge cause of mass violence. Ellis continues, there's a strong relationship between bullying and mass violence. Most of the boys who have committed shootings in America's schools were routinely teased and bullied. Being bullied leads to a feeling of isolation and powerlessness. Victims also often feel an intense desire to regain power and turn to violence as a remedy. And then 2, drugs. Applying to probable cause searches is going to increase drug use in many ways. First, it's harder for school officers to effectively search for drugs. Benjamin Tiller argues that sometimes it would be unclear whether exigent circumstances exist, so resource officers would know which illegal standard applies to each search. The resource officer who is not a criminal attorney must either conduct a search and have the risk the evidence being suppressed, or take time to apply for a warrant and risk the safety of the students. Second, a lower standard creates a deterrent effect, so students are less likely to bring contraband onto school. Tiller continues, it is necessary to apply for reasonable suspicion standard to deter students. If students know that they can be searched with only reasonable suspicion, they'll be less likely to carry contraband onto school property. If students know that a warrant must be obtained, they'll be more tempted to bring contraband onto school because they have the reduced chance of being caught. This is extremely important. Youth drug use can cause increased crime, dangerous driving, and many health problems. According to the ONDCP, youth drug use is linked to antisocial behavior and crime. Nearly 1 million youth reported driving in the past year within 2 hours of using an illegal drug. And the number of studies demonstrated that people who use drugs are more likely to have mental disorders, physical health problems, and family problems. Plus, it contributes to the overall drug problem in society, which is a huge drain on our economy and kills hundreds of thousands of people a year. According to the Partnership of Drug-Free Kids, drug abuse kills more than 200,000 people worldwide each year. Fewer than 1 in 5 people who need treatment actually receive it. Crimes are committed by people who need money to finance their drug habit, as well as loss in productivity, and adds a tremendous cost to many countries. This is why you should vote Kang. Thank you.
Very rude, I'm sorry.
Very polite.
I mean, everyone carry on.
For cross X, do you want us to go up to the front, or do you want us to sit at her?
You're fine where you are.
All right.
You ready to begin?
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead.
May I please ask the first question?
Okay.
Doesn't random drug testing actually violate students' rights?
No, because we're not violating any rights. We're doing it for the safety of students, so they do not abuse drugs and they do not have family problems and die because of these dangerous drugs.
But actually, there have been tons of cases where people do invade people's violate students' rights or privacy. In this case, people get drugs. And the case was actually where a school search case where somebody actually had to strip down a person to be able to find drugs. That was an inappropriate and wrong way to be able to do this. If people actually continue to do random drug testing in rude ways toward the person and the student themselves, then therefore random drug testing is violating students' privacy and making them feel humiliated.
No, first of all, these drugs are a huge problem. As we stated, it kills 200,000 people worldwide each year, which is a huge problem. Lives are priceless, and just to violate a little privacy is worth the lives of thousands of people.
But even if you do violate someone's privacy, this is a huge impact towards the students themselves. Our students should at least be able to understand that they should at least be able to understand when a student searches someone.
Can you say that again? I didn't quite understand.
A student, even when a teacher does, even though if they do search with random drug testing, it is violating their rights, and therefore it's violating the Constitution itself of their rights and privacy.
Well, I mean, first of all, the Constitution is violated all the time, and it has no major impact such as now. And also, you bring up the point that that you're violating the student's privacy. But privacy is, yes, a right, but if your privacy is violated a little bit compared to having maybe your friend die or even you die of using drugs, it's
even though
100% worth it.
Even though you just said that tons of people will already be dying, isn't it more? I'm not trying to say that privacy is more important than the safety for the school environment. I'm trying to see that they should at least be considered, and therefore probable cause gives them at least enough reason. If they actually get a search warrant and actually have enough reason to do someone, then it won't be counted as a random drug test. If it's not a random drug test, then therefore it can't be considered as a fair. Therefore, there may actually be a higher chance of them having drugs than just using reasonable suspicion.
Well, the current standard is actually solving it. With probable cause, you have to wait hours to get a warrant. And hours can mean the difference between drugs spreading throughout the whole school and solving it immediately. If we solve it immediately, then you can stop people from dying.
Can I respond to that?
I was gonna finish.
Oh, right.
Okay. If you use a drug one time, you can die, and
But actually, you also forget that there's actually a high probability of somebody actually using drugs for a very good reason. Some drugs are actually used to be able to help certain people, such as steroids was supposed to be to help people who, for their bones or for the muscles, to be able to help them get back on track in life. Therefore, if there are certain drugs that are actually good, then therefore there's the probability that at the same time these drugs may be good for them and may not need to be invaded of their privacy.
All right, do you all need prep time?
No.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna give a brief outline roadmap. First, I will respond to my opponent's arguments in this order: cyberbullying and then drugs. Okay. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay, then I shall begin now. So, response to cyberbullying. 1. Cell phone searches will only lead to more harassment and cyberbullying, according to Naomi Harlan Goodnow. Some students indicated that when they reported cyberbullying incidents to teachers, these conversations were not confidential and resulted in additional retaliatory harassment. 2. Multiple new solutions are dealing with cyberbullies. Naomi Smith writes in CBS News. The social network VHeart is designed to prevent experiences like Samantha's. It allows users to share photos, but no one can post comments. Identity protection programs, MetLife Defenders offers a service that monitors a child's online account for abusive content. The U.S. Department of Education unveiled a new app called No Bully to help parents spot warning signs and talk to their kids. Stop It takes a different approach. It enables students to take a screenshot of a harassing post and a picture or text message and anonymously send it to a trusted adult. 3. Cyberbullying is being handled since 2013, says Alice Bidwell and the Us News. Bullying rates are down overall. The percentage of students who reported being bullied cyberbullying reached a record low in 2013. According to new data from the Department of Education, the results of the latest school crime supplement of the National Crime Victimized Survey, which shows that in 2013, percentage of students aged in 12 through 18 who report being bullied dropped to 21.5%. The percentage of students who reported being cyberbullied also fell to 6.9% in 2013, down to the 9% in 2011. Response to drugs. 1. It only makes it worse. Random drug testing doesn't reduce drugs and only encourages students to do even more dangerous drugs. According to Washington Post noted that numerous studies have shown little evidence of effectiveness. The 2013 study found that school drug testing was associated with moderately low marijuana use, but increased in other more dangerous drugs. A 2014 study concluded that the drug testing was not associated with changes in substance use. 2. Harms education. Random drug testing destroys trust, harming students' education, according to Celia Vermont. Random drug testing in schools do not reduce students' substance use. The study found that students who attend schools where they feel treated with respect are less likely to start smoking marijuana. Romer found students attending school with positive school climate were 15% less likely to start smoking cigarettes and 20% less likely to start smoking marijuana. 3. Random drug testing does not allow does not follow reasonable suspicion. There is no reason to think all students are doing drugs. I've responded to all my contentions, all my opponent's contentions, so this is why you should vote for Pro.
Okay, so is everyone ready?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to give a brief off-time roadmap. So first I'm going to respond to my opponent's contentions in the order that they gave them, and then I'm going to extend my contentions. Okay, so starting now. There are many flaws in my opponent's contentions, so I will go through each one. In response to my opponent's first contention of school-to-prison pipeline, 1, they can't solve. Just increasing the threshold for searches will not change the zero tolerance and 3-strike policies. It's not going to change the fact that crime is common in low-income schools. There are just too many other causes of the pipeline that the Pro cannot fix. 2, status quo efforts solve. States are finding ways to dramatically reduce their student prison pipeline. They have had of alternate reports. Student suspension and expulsion rates have gone down statewide. This meant that 49,987 fewer students were suspended in 2013 to 2014 compared to the year before. Much of this decline is about better decisions being made by systems. The school boards have all voted to eliminate willful defiance as a reason to suspend a student, which account for up to half of all suspensions. Probation departments are also making better decisions, not admitting into their juvenile detention centers youth charged with low-level offenses, but youth are also making better decisions. The rate tax dollars are irrelevant. The U.S. has $19 trillion of debt. Tens of billions of dollars compared to that is nothing at all. It will not create enough of a dent in our debt to actually make a difference. 4, minor crimes need to be punished so that they don't need to lead to major crimes later on that would have a much larger impact, which would be involved in the adult criminal justice system. 5, senators make up only a small part of the students going through the pipeline because there are many crimes that teachers would know that have occurred which do not require searching. Switching to a probable cause standard will not reduce the flow of students. Now I'm going to respond to my opponent's contention of students' rights. 1, reasonable suspicion does not violate students' privacy. Benjamin Tiller of the St. Louis University Law School argues, students in school do not possess the same breadth of constitutional rights as parties in other settings. Students retain constitutional rights in school, and these are limited by circumstances of the school's special environment. The reasonable suspicion standard is entirely consistent with the other constitutional rights that students enjoy. It will not produce a slippery slope or erode students' rights. 2, it's not a big deal. Students' privacy is being constantly violated via social media and overbearing parents. One school search, as long as the administrator has reasonable suspicion, will not collapse their privacy rights. 3, because of the fact that students will be searched for safety reasons, there is no violation of privacy, such as security in an airport, where they check everything you have just for the safety of yourself. I want to send the contention of cyberbullying. Cyberbullying occurs more often than you think. Sam Laird writes, 42% of teenagers with tech access report being cyberbullied over the past year. 81% of teens say bullying online is easier to get away with. 3 million kids per month are absent from school due to bullying. 20% of kids cyberbullied think about suicide, and 1 in 10 attempt it. 4,500 kids commit suicide each year. Suicide is the number 3 killer of teens in the United States. This trend keeps happening. Cyberbullying has a huge impact on the victims. According to Reuters, cyberbullying may be even harder on the victims than physical beatings or name-calling. Cyber victims may be even more likely to feel isolated, dehumanized, or helpless at the time of the attack. Cyberbullying victims report significantly higher levels of depression than frequent bullies. Bullying harms learning and can lower school test scores. Now I want to extend the contention of drugs. Tens of thousands of people die from drug overdoses each year in the United States, and each life counts. According to the CDC, the United States is experiencing an epidemic of drug overdose deaths. Since 2000, the rate of deaths from drug overdose has increased by 137%. During 2014, a total of 47,055 drug overdose deaths occurred in the United States alone, representing a 1-year increase of 6.5%. A huge percent of teens abuse drugs. Addiction Center says, 1 in 5 teens have abused prescription medications. 21% of high school seniors have reported using marijuana in the past month. 40% had used alcohol in the last month, and more than 20% of teens report having used marijuana at least once in the past month. For these reasons, my opponent's contentions are flawed, and our contentions outweigh theirs. Thank you.
All right, Crossfire.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so Josh, ready?
Yep.
Okay, then we shall begin. Okay, if the con team feels as if the students have a reason to be searched, then why not just get a warrant?
So are you just saying that since students are getting searched, why can't we just get a warrant?
No, what I'm saying is that, so if you feel as if that we are searching them for a good reason, correct?
So when we're actually doing the reasonable suspicion searching, we're basically just making sure for the safety of school. Like, so for example, there's random searches. So as I said in my response speech, I was saying that in airports, you're just giving up your security and your privacy in order for you to be safe, right? It's because there are many attacks at airports and you want to be safe for yourself. So there's a reason for this, because with the reasonable suspicion standard in place, then students will feel more safe, so they'll actually trust their authorities more.
But with your example of the security, they're searching them, but it's because it's the authorities searching them, and they basically do have a warrant because the government has allowed them to do this.
But I don't like the airport security centers and the school officials have the same reason of searching them. They're searching them for the safety of their students, right? Or the safety of the people.
But this is for the but we're not talking about airports, so we're talking about school.
I know, what I'm trying to say is that at school, we're
warrant,
basically trying to protect the students by searching with this reasonable suspicion standard. So let's say that an official is suspicious of a student. That doesn't mean that that student has that suspicious thing, such as guns or drugs. That doesn't mean that that actually is true. They're just making sure that it doesn't happen so that other students won't get impacted by it.
But if you can get a warrant to show that you have enough evidence to search the students, why not get it?
The students will actually, they actually accept it whether you have a warrant or not, because they also know that it's a good reason. Can you move on?
Yes.
Okay. So for your school district pipeline contention, so haven't states already found ways to dramatically reduce the school district pipeline already? So for example, there's California, which has already decreased by 50,000 students.
But probable cause would make this even less. You always want to do what's better for America.
So there are many causes to the pipeline. So let's say, for example, there's a good school climate. Then people won't really try to use drugs or bring guns to school because they know that they have a good school climate. And there's basically a lot of studies that say that if there's a good school climate, then people won't actually bring these things to school.
Exactly, and a probable cause would be a good school climate because they feel as if they're being respected.
No, because the searches are only a small part of the things that go through the pipeline, right? There are many causes of the students going through the pipeline. Let's say that the teachers know what they did, so they don't have the need to search them. That's probably a majority of the things that are for the students going through the pipeline. It's not just searches. Searches is only a small part of it.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Okay.
All right. Do you all need prep time?
Yes, please.
Okay. Time to eat now.
We're done.
All right. It's 30-second use. You have a minute and a half.
All right, thank you. So, do you want me to bring my computer up there? Or?
If you'd like.
All right. So I'm going to give a brief off-time robot. First, I'm going to be summarizing the contentions. Then I'm going to respond to them. If I have any time left after my speech, I therefore will go back over the crossfire and answer some questions and emphasize my impact. So, judge ready?
Yes.
Opponent ready?
Mm-hmm.
Partner ready?
Yes.
Audience ready? All right, then I shall begin. First contention is school to prison pipeline. This contention is saying that current state policies contribute to the pipeline, which means that kids having a high percentage of going to jail after school. By perpetuating this pipeline, there will be economic consequences and etc. But probable cause will protect students legally. Crossed by my contention where the evidence is actually already provided. Moving on to but what they said about my contention, they said it can't be solved because crime is common. One, this is already wrong. Our impact actually outweighs this because we actually have evidence. Therefore, if they have no evidence to be able to provide for this very first for this, then therefore you cannot be able to take that response into recognition for this debate. I'm moving on to the next one. They said that status quo solves, but really it doesn't because crime is actually very high. There's a lot of huge impacts that we already said, and that crime is a very huge thing. And it's already happening tons of times. So I'm moving on. They said that tax dollars, but is irrelevant. First of all, I believe that this topic is irrelevant to the entire situation. I believe that tax dollars do not have anything to actually do with this topic itself and K-public probable cause or reasonable suspicion. Therefore, you should not take that into consideration either. Moving on to the next one, they said that nothing is compared to the debt, but even though it may not be compared to the debt and may not be able to fracture it, it will actually though be able to fracture the money for the education. Therefore, if that money economic consequence is unable to provide for not the debt, probably it may not be able to debt for, but actually for education for people, then that means schools will be bad, horrible schools will be built, therefore the security and safety of our students will therefore be put in danger because of the economic consequences, probably not our society. So moving on to my next one, rule of law, wait, my bad, sorry. Moving on to my next contention, students' rights. Reasonable suspicion gives students two free rights, which violates their privacy, which then kids will violate other rights in the law. This is the snowball effect, which could harm and contribute to the pipeline, but probable cause allows privacy to be respected, especially for students. So they said reasonable suspicion does not violate students' rights, but it actually does, because therefore by actually searching them, there's actually a probability or chance of actually their search being wrong. Therefore, they're actually violating their rights. They said it's not a big deal, but it actually is for the students. Because students' privacy should be valued because they are our future. And then for my last one, they said safety reasons. Even though it may be for the safety, students' rights really is.
That's time.
All right, I know. Since I was unable to finish, will my last argument still be taken into consideration?
Yeah, there's like 5 seconds. So
All right, thanks.
It's okay.
Okay.
Do you need prep time?
No. Okay. Is everybody ready? Okay. Our first contention is cyberbullying, which is saying how in the current system, cyberbullying is able to be stopped because we will be able to search the students' phones and we'll be able to get the evidence and stop the bullying. But with probable cause, we cannot do that because we need to get a warrant to actually search this, and it will be harder or people will be affected by the cyberbullying, which is bad because it causes suicide and many other problems. The first response is that it only leads to more harassment if you report, but that's just not logical. Why, if you get in trouble for bullying somebody, and then you like get expelled or get in large trouble, and then you come back and bully them again, you're gonna get in trouble again. It's just not logical. They also said that there's new solutions, but they have no evidence stating on if these new solutions actually work. Sure, people are using these new solutions, but they don't work. So you can't really take that into consideration. They also said that that's actually reaching a record low, cyberbullying. But yeah, this is in the current standard, and if we change to probable cause, then it will increase again, causing more suicide and other things like that. Our next contention is drugs, which is saying how drugs will increase with probable cause because we won't be able to search as effectively, and it will take longer, which causes health risks and death. They also said it only makes it worse, but actually, and they're saying that it will cause more dangerous drugs, but there will be less drugs, and those dangerous drugs will be confiscated by when we use reasonable suspicion. He also said that it harms education because it decreases trust, but actually trust will increase because we're protecting them. Just as my partner said in the airport example, we trust the people at the airport even though they're violating our privacy for safety so we don't die. Same with here. And their final response is that it doesn't follow reasonable suspicion because we're doing worldwide or school-wide searches, but we never talked about these searches, and so this argument should be disregarded. Thank you.
All right. Grand crossfire.
Okay. Is everybody ready?
Yep.
Okay, and we shall begin. Okay, so in your summary, you said that probable cause would actually make cyberbullying higher. How would this be?
Because cyberbullying will cause it to be higher. Or probable cause will cause cyberbullying to be higher because with probable cause, we cannot search a student's phone as effectively, and we'll have to apply for a warrant to even do that, which takes hours, and a student can injure themselves and commit suicide within those few hours. And also,
can I please be able to respond? respond, or did you finish your sentence?
Oh, you can.
So you said that they'll be able to commit suicide by then. Actually, suicide takes a very long time and measure. As an example, would actually be Amanda Todd. She didn't commit suicide till 2 months after she released her video. Suicide is actually, to the measure, is a huge issue. Even though, as you already said, it may be a huge issue. The problem, the magnet, exactly of how long, the time frame of how long it will take. Suicide takes a very long time for them to actually be able to decide whether or not that to happen.
Well, so with suicide, so if you're saying that's basically easy to prevent, is that what we're saying? Or?
No, I'm saying that suicide, it actually takes a long time to actually be able to decide whether or not you want to commit suicide. Now,
but then why are there still so many cases of it? So as I said in my response, I said that 4,500 kids are killed by suicide each year from cyberbullying.
I'm trying to say that it will take a long enough time because he said that by then he said that a warrant or search takes way too long and by then they'll be able to commit suicide. But actually, a warrant or search, even though it may take long, suicide actually takes a long enough time for that person to actually be able to consider to actually kill themselves.
And,
What?
You can go.
Oh, okay. What I was saying is, it doesn't take 2 months for a bullet to travel through your head. Sorry for the graphic images, but
actually, it does. I gave an already an example of Amanda Todd. She took about 2 months before she actually decided to kill suicide.
I know, but how long did it take for her to actually die? Exactly.
She hanged herself.
No, if you're already considering suicide and you're following through, and then you get reported, instead of them having to intervene immediately, those few hours they can actually kill themselves while they apply for a warrant.
But
maybe move on to another question.
Yes, let's move on.
All right.
Okay. Do you guys have a question?
Oh, sure. Okay. So for your students' rights contention, so isn't privacy better than safety? Or isn't safety better than privacy? I'm sorry.
Okay, well, so privacy. Students need privacy in order to report these incidents because if they feel as if they're not being respected and they're not and their privacy is not being followed, then they're not going to want to report this to the teachers because they feel as if they're not. Because they feel like the teachers will not even care.
Can I respond? Okay, so basically it is basically more important because we're saying the privacy, well, it isn't that much of a deal because basically the officials are just searching them for their own safety. It's for a good thing. It's not for a bad thing. And also in addition, for our safety argument, so if we don't search students, thousands of people will die each year. Thank you.
So you all need prep time?
So first I'm going to give a brief off-time roadmap. I'm going to summarize my contention, then I'll respond to my opponent's responses, then following their contentions. Okay, is everybody ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then I shall begin. So the pro team should win this debate for multiple reasons. One of these reasons is because of our contention of school-to-prison pipeline. Current policies have contributed to the school-to-prison pipeline. According to Professor Sarah Redfield and Jason Nance in 2016, when students are charged as juveniles, they are afforded fewer rights. This can escalate impact. Participating in the pipeline has several consequences to the youth and their education. The Harvard Law Review points out in 2015. In addition, the students who spend time in juvenile prison are significantly less likely to graduate from high school. The pipeline also has massive economic consequences. If the U.S. could cut the number of high school dropouts in half, the country would gain $45 million through extra tax revenue and reduce public costs. And finally, probable cause can help shift the balance and protect students in the legal system. Under a probable cause standard, students who research will have greater grounds to support the suspension motions. My opponent stated that we can't solve, but they haven't given any reasons how they will solve, and a probable cause would solve even more because it would solve because the students will not be going to jail without much reason. They would have lots of evidence to be searched. My opponent also said that status quo effort solve, but the status quo effort solve, but it's not really solving completely, but if with a probable cause, as I stated before, it would make it even better. My opponent also said that tax dollar revenues are insignificant and we already have a high tax, but adding on to this tax is not going to be good, and it would be horrible for our democracy. But they also said that minors have to be punished for what they're doing wrong, but with the probable cause, they would be punished if they have an actual reason to be punished. And my opponent also said that there's a small effect and it doesn't really violate privacy, but it does violate privacy because it definitely violates privacy because they are not really.
Okay, I'm really So, is everyone ready? Okay, so I'm going to give a brief outline roadmap. So first I'm going to summarize my voting issue and respond to my opponent's responses against that. And then I'm going to respond to my opponent's voting issue, and then I'm going to do some impact calc.
All right.
Okay. So I urge you to vote for the con team because of our voting issue of cyberbullying. So this basically says that with the reasonable suspicion standard, we can search students to actually figure out what happened during cyberbullying incidents. And it also enforces cyberbullying laws. This decreases the incidents where cyberbullying happens. Now, cyberbullying actually causes physiological problems, which leads thousands of deaths from suicide and mass violence each year. And so you can cross-apply our layered evidence, which says that 4,500 kids die each year from suicide caused by cyberbullying, and 1 in 10 cyberbullying victims attempt suicide. Each life counts. This is a bigger impact than what they say about privacy. Privacy isn't that important. And so my opponent responds to this by saying that cell phone searches will lead to more harassment because the conversations are not confidential, but that's not logical because you don't want to get in trouble again if you already got in trouble before. You don't want to get suspended or get sent to juvie. So I can only say that there's multiple new solutions, but they don't have evidence that it works. It's still not working. Our trend of 4,500 kids dying each year is still going on. It's not going to fix anything. So they finally said that cyberbullying is being handled and is being decreased, but it's actually not, because also, in addition, probable cause would make cyberbullying worse because you cannot enforce these cyberbullying laws by searching students, and you can't find out about the situation. So I'm going to respond to my opponent's voting issue with a school division pipeline. First of all, there are too many other causes to the pipeline, and there are many things that don't require searches. This is pure logic. And second of all, the status quo will actually solve. So, for example, we said that California, it's a resource-rich state that can be modeled after by other states, and they decreased the amount of students going through the pipeline by 50,000 students. So, if you vote for the pro team, you will basically be allowing thousands of teens to die from things such as suicide and mass violence. But if you vote for the con team, you can prevent this from happening, and every single life counts. Thank you.
All right. Well done, you all.
Thank you.